Ladies, welcome to the Feminine Mystery. My name is Azalea Dawn, and on my channel I talk about femininity, elegance, leveling up, and everything you need to attract the right masculine provider for you. So if that sounds right for you, then please check out the rest of the videos on my channel and subscribe if you like it. Today's video is going to be all about how it takes more than just love, and how you should learn to benefit from a relationship. Now, the reason that this topic was on my mind is that I had a friend actually who was dealing with a very personal health issue. You know, a lot of people over the past couple of years, there are people who obviously, they were just fine. They got through things, the way that they did, despite having even like pre-existing conditions or being smokers or whatever. But there are a lot of people also who didn't, right? There are a lot of people, especially married couples, who like one person got it and like it went one way, but the other person got it and it just really hit them and took them out. And it was just really negative and nasty. And that got me thinking about the idea of like love and romance, especially as it relates to leveling up, because there is like a framework in our society where people kind of make it seem as though in order to really be in a relationship for love, you have to be willing to basically have no other requirements, right? You have to be willing to be broke, homeless, impoverished, and just, struggling with this other person, or even at the hands of this other person, in order to prove that you really love them, right? We have something like in the zeitgeist, especially Black women, who feel as though like in order to really prove that you love somebody, you have to endure suffering on this person's behalf. And I just thought, wow, that's really something that I wanted to talk about, because that's not at all what love is. I personally feel like somebody who loves you is not here to drag you down in the world. Somebody who really loves you the way that like you may very well need to be loved. And by the way, please excuse any sort of background noise. I have a lot of like appliances going in the background. I'm doing a little bit of housework, but this came to my mind. Somebody who really loves you, they are not going to drag you down. They want your life to be better, right? Somebody who loves you, they want to make your life better. They want to participate in your life in a productive way. So let's get into this a little bit more. So my first tidbit of advice here is to date for lifestyle as much as you date for love. Now, when it comes to dating in general, like I said, like we are fed this idea that dating and like love in particular means suffering on somebody else's behalf, but that is a very toxic belief, right? The idea that like if you love somebody, you are not allowed to have any other boundaries. You're not allowed to consider anything except, I guess, like if you're a man, like yes, you can consider like dating somebody who's attractive, but any requirement other than that is just, oh, you're shallow, you're a terrible person, blase, 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 right? It's a problem. But you really have to like reframe your mindset around this, in my opinion, and you have to be the person who's going to walk away from this toxic belief system and do something else, right? You should be dating for lifestyle and the day-to-day life that you're going to live with a person just as much as you're dating for romantic love. A person who really loves you, who really cares about you, that is a person who wants to see you live well, even if you're not with them, okay? Like that's the plain and honest truth of it all. Like in my opinion, like in my relationship personally, I feel like if it ever became a point where my husband, where he felt like my life was worse being with him, he would excuse himself and just go work on himself, right? He would not be over here like pressuring me to be in a relationship with him. He would be like, blessings, you do whatever is best for you, whatever is right for you. And that's the way that I feel. Like if you love something, set it free. In the same way, like I think that when you are really like being loved by another person, they want to see you live a good life. They want to see you live a materially good life. They want to see you live, a life of luxury, if that's what you aspire to. Somebody who loves you is not looking to hold you back from that. And in addition to that, love is something that I really feel like exists in the crevices of your everyday life. It's those little moments when you're with somebody and they just say something that makes you feel a certain way, or they really show up in a way that like lets you know that they're there for you. Love kind of like lives in between the moments, but the main thing that's going to be going on in your day-to-day life is just that, your day-to-day life. And if you're somebody you don't want to be working, like the job that you're currently working now, or you don't want to be working, like 2 jobs when you're like 38 and you're trying to start a family, like this is just not the life that you want to live. There is no way to sort of like square the circle around that. There is no way to disentangle being unhappy with the person that you're with and being unhappy with the reality of your life. And I think that that's a very like pernicious thing that people don't talk about enough. So what I would say is that if you really want to be in a loving relationship, part of that is having boundaries around the kind of lifestyle that you want to live with this person. Now, the next point that I want to talk about here is that people who work jobs are also depending on a man. Now, this is something that I see all the time, like in sort of like the criticism of like femininity content, level up content, hypergamy content, the idea that you are somehow like outsourcing all of your ability to care for yourself. And I think that this is an area where we really need like a lot of nuance as women. There are people in the world who like they are from difficult circumstances, like let's say they're from an Eastern European country, or they're from a very poor country somewhere in the world where they don't really have an economy that exists around them such that they can like work. And especially like they're also dealing with forces like sexism and discrimination on certain bases, right? So in that case, they really do have to rely on their looks. The women there, they have to rely on their looks to get them out of very desperate situations. So you see like a lot of women who are in like Dubai, or they're maybe even like in Monaco, and they've come from a circumstance, like I don't want to like name drop certain countries as if to imply that everybody there is struggling. But if like there are a lot of women from these countries who they have escaped their circumstances literally through, their beauty, and they do rely on that. But that said, that is not the situation for most women in America. We are in a situation collectively where we have access to education, and not only do we have equitable access to education, we are actually outperforming men for the most part when it comes to college graduation, job preparedness, all sorts of things, right? And that is something that is really changing in this country in particular. So when you are somebody in this situation, you are very much prepared to work to get a job and support yourself. You are not in that person's situation where this woman over here, she might not even have, like a basic education, certainly not a college education. She doesn't have any job skills, and she does have to rely on a man. You're not in that situation. You can very much, if this relationship doesn't work out, chances are you graduated from college, you already have work experience, you can get a job. So that is just that in that sense. But I also want to say that people who work jobs, they also depend on a man. Like there is very much a man who is running whatever company that you work for. 9 times out of 10, unfortunately, it is a man, right, who owns this business, whether it's a small business that you happen to work for or like an F500 business, which has like a board of directors and like a CEO, right? Chances are you are working for a man, and that man does make decisions about your life. That man decides whether or not you stay or go. And the big difference between like this and a relationship, in my humble opinion, is that this man who is in charge of you when you are working a job, he doesn't even love you. He probably, he might not even know you. And if he does know you, chances are you are one of many employees, right? This is not a man that you are even sleeping with. Like, this is not somebody who has any allegiance to you, any loyalty to you. He does not care about you any more than like in a bean counter or in like a good like communal kind of way. So, right, like saying that like, oh, it's kind of like dangerous to like outsource like your well-being to a man, like, well, you're gonna be doing that anyways if you're working a job. But the big difference is that the man who is in charge of your life, your lifestyle, when you're working a job, he doesn't love you. So that is one thing that I really wanted to just kind of like bring to the forefront here. It is not somehow like less risky to have a job. If anything, it's more risky. Because like when you get fired from that job, you're going to go back home at the end of the day, and that job is not going to keep you warm at night. So it's just something to think about. The next thing I wanted to touch on here is that you don't owe it to anybody to be relatable, right? So I think that a big part of what might be holding us back from really making decisions in our own interest is this idea that we don't want to be like alienated from the lives that other women are, kind of living, right? You don't want to be sort of like the topic of conversation where people start to say things about you or like take little jabs at you, like, oh, I could never do what you're doing, but happy for you. Or, oh, like, are you just like so lazy? You just sit around and you don't do anything all day. You don't owe it to anybody to be relatable. You don't have to, just because other people are kind of like suffering through their own circumstances. Like, just because people are going somewhere that they don't want to be every day, doing something that they don't want to do, and they have to do that every single day. Like, don't think that their suffering somehow makes them like noble, right? That is kind of like the theme that I want to like bring forward in this video. You are not like somehow better than other people for enduring suffering on their behalf, right? So if you are somebody who you don't want to work or you want to do a particular thing during the day, you should feel free to do that. You don't owe it to anybody to pretend that you're working or pretend that you are like somehow like industrious or that you've earned the right to be a stay-at-home wife, a stay-at-home girlfriend, stay-at-home mother, whatever it is that you want to do, right? You don't have to prove anything to anybody about how you deserve to be financially supported. Once you're there and that's your reality, it is what it is. Finally, I just wanted to say that once your success is past tense, everybody will support you, right? I think that this is a thing that we really don't talk about enough when it comes to any kind of self-improvement content, right? Self-improvement as like a thing is relatively new to human beings, right? That's something that's been happening pretty much just in the last century, right? Like starting about in the 1940s and 50s, right? That's when self-improvement and self-help really like became a thing at all. Before that, people just worked and they lived their lives, and that was it. Like you maybe had like a religion, but other than that, there was no like idea of like, oh, you're gonna like make your life better. Like, no, your life just kind of was what it was. Now, like, yes, we're getting like more and more into the idea that like self-help is a more common thing, but it's still a thing that is not natural or normal to people. Like our bodies, our minds are very old machines. Like these are things that have existed for thousands of years, and we are wired to behave a certain way. So sometimes when you are making a change in your life and you make it known to other people that you're making a change, that can be very confronting for them. It can feel very viscerally unpleasant for them, because the idea that you're making a positive change in your life makes them feel like, oh, well, if they don't make that change, then they're somehow like a bad person. So they like turn it and like they project those feelings of negativity onto you. They try to either like hold you back from making a change, or they like try to like make it seem as if like you're a bad person for making a positive change. And I think like leveling up and like femininity is like no different. Like people are going to react to that, as if they're kind of like being attacked, because the idea is like if they are somebody who maybe like their life is like less than desirable and they've been, like suffering in silence for all this time, like how dare you go off and just be happy, right? But the thing is, like, once all of this is in the past tense, like you're gonna have people saying, I wish I had done what you did, right? Once you are kind of like over the hump and maybe you are like in your 40s or 50s, you have been, let's say like a housewife, a stay-at-home mom or whatever, like you don't work and you haven't for like 10 or 15 years, and people start to see like, okay, like this man that said that he like vowed to take care of you, who said that those were his beliefs, he really did that. He has been taking care of you and he has supported you for all of this time, right? They're going to turn around and say like, I wish I had done that. I wish that that's how I had lived, that that's a choice that I had made, like that opportunity is in the past now, but I'm so happy for you and like what you've managed to do. I think like a classic example of this here on YouTube is like Shira. I think her channel might be like Shira 7. I'm not sure, but if you know, like she has been, on doing her thing for years and years and years. And like I said, like in the same way, like if something were to happen to her in her relationship, she would either just get a new husband or go back to working as a mortician. But like little by little, like over time, like something starts to show itself as being the reality of what it is, right? This is a person who has been supported by her husband for years and years and years and will continue to be so into the future. So just know that change is possible, and that once your success actually happens, that's when you're finally going to get the acknowledgement. That's when you're finally going to get the acknowledgement. That's when you're finally going to get your flowers. So just stick it out until then and really like believe in yourself, because you're going to have to be your own cheerleader up to that point. Now, ladies, that's going to be it for me. I will catch you in my next video. If you've enjoyed this video, then please give it a like below, and check out the other videos on my channel if you're interested in love content, femininity content, actionable advice that can help you really improve your life. So yeah, until the next time, I'll see you then.